some words that I heard this morning: belonging, advocacy, change makers, mattering, cultural workers, being seen, validated, allies, listening, ownership, platform, community power, understanding through the lens of the marginalized, context and complexity, empowerment, co-creation, self-expression. When I think about these words and the idea of voice, what really comes to mind to me is about how we can create an infrastructure that promotes voice, and that comes back to this idea of opportunity, right? What opportunities do students have to express themselves, and ultimately, as has been a theme throughout the morning as well, just belong and matter, right? So with this in mind, my time will be split between sharing some research insights, but also just kind of giving you a more in-depth look at what it actually looks and feels like for students to be a part of student voice initiatives. What I mean by student voice initiatives, is structured opportunities for decision making. Now, I understand that's a very broad definition, but it's broad intentionally because they can take many different forms and be in many different types of places. You can have student voice initiatives that exist inside of classrooms during lessons. You have student voice initiatives that are out of school during expanded learning activities or after-school activities and programs that are structured for them. Or you can have student voice initiatives that are part of school policies and practices that really honor students' perspectives and promote them to positions of leadership. And so with this in mind, student voice initiatives can take many different forms, but they're all about three things from my perspective. The first is this idea of choice. The second is this idea of legitimacy. And the third is this idea of citizenship. And so in terms of choice, motivation research tells us that when students are not pressured to think, feel, and act in a certain way, they're more engaged. And the reason why this is particularly important for adolescents is because this idea of autonomy is a basic psychological need, right? But this need for autonomy becomes heightened as students progress throughout adolescence. And so according to stage environment fit theory, adolescents will learn what is to be learned in spaces where their needs are met because they're going to engage more in those spaces and choose to be in those spaces. A second idea here is about legitimacy, and research on rightful presence teaches us that leveraging students' cultural insights matters because it signals to a student that this environment is for me. And so one way that cultural insights can be leveraged is by students collecting their own data in communities or in their schools and then interpreting it from their lens. But the key here is that their perspectives are legitimized and they're seen as valid and valuable to the conversation. And it's not someone imposing their perspective on students, but actually understanding why you would perceive this way based on how this environment looks and feels to you. The third area that I would like to touch on is this idea of citizenship, and I'll be brief on this one because my colleague Alon Hope is going to bless you all in the next session on that, I'm sure. But the civic engagement literature teaches us that creating some action steps with students allows them to really feel like they're true citizens, and it's good, like, democratic practice to be able to do so. And so, if we're preparing students for the future and to be able to be advocates and change agents, then it starts right now. And so with this in mind, I'd like to just share one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from engaging in this work myself, and that is that teachers just matter. At the end of the day, they matter. If you're talking about successful student voice initiatives, teachers play a role, right? And I think it's important to acknowledge the role that they play. And it's not always that we need to tell teachers what to do. Sometimes as outside organizations, we need to just support what they have going and just follow their lead and their intuition because they're there with students a lot throughout the day. And you can find some real change-making teachers inside of schools. And so as an example of this, this is a small piece of a larger ongoing university school partnership that I've been a part of and leading for the past 5 years or so. But recently, some students won at the local, regional, and national level of a architectural design competition where they designed a school of the future. And so they presented recently in California to a group of architects And what I like most about this endeavor is that it was so much so student initiated and led, and their design for the school was a way to promote the things that they thought could be better in their homeschool environment. So I'm going to show you a quick video of their experiences just to bring you into their world a bit, because they couldn't be here with me today. And then after that, we're just going to focus on a few key considerations when it comes to partnering and supporting teacher-led initiatives that really center students.
My name is Kia Allah, and I have been a teacher at Neal for 5 years. Neal is a very unique place to work. Our population is almost split between our Black kids and our Latino population, and it makes for amazing opportunities.
The name of our school is MALA, which stands for Multicultural Advanced Learning Academy.
Community is important at the school because that's how we get to bond with people, and community, we get to help each other out.
We decided to build our school at the Inner River because the Inner River is very relaxing, it's peaceful, and it's very beautiful. It's a very, very beautiful place to be at.
We feel like that area is the best option because we get to be around a natural environment. So we get to know more about nature.
With this project, we're trying to accomplish more cultural knowledge.
Yo soy porque nosotros somos. It means I am because you are in Spanish. To me, that means that I have people around me that can help me and support me.
Neal is considered a failing school, and this grade of an F sometimes makes people think that maybe there is nothing for students to contribute, but really their voice shines through when they're given the opportunity to do something innovative, when they're given the tools and they're set up to really show how their ideas and how they can work together and collaborate to really come up with something that is a game changer for their community, for each other, and for just how they're learning in the space.
So this is where we're going to build our school, and the river will power our school. We are going to use hydropower, so the river will be a natural resource to our school.
I think it's really important for people to invest in what they're saying, to really hear their voice. It's not really common for students to be in these conversations about how to make schools better. Maybe they have a voice about a school dance, but not necessarily about transformation or even like what needs to be transformed in a school.
Students and just a person's culture in general, it shapes who they are. It shapes their view of the world. It shapes how the world interacts with them. And it's not something that we can ignore. We have to embrace it and show them that you are amazing because you are you.
The project changed my life because I didn't think that we were going to go to California, and it made me think like more about myself because now I feel like I can actually do more things.
I want people to be able to know that a Black female can make it in life.
Our kids have voices, they have ideas, they are a fountain of innovation. But we need to listen.
And so what research on sustainable, impactful student voice initiatives teaches us is that there are 4 main areas where intermediary organizations can really support. The first is around a vision, a collective vision around what we're actually doing and what we're trying to impact for students. And so for us, in my project, it was about unpacking the concept of motivation for teachers and other adults who engage with students in order to empower them. However, when we came together with teachers, it became to empower students to contribute substantively to the social and physical conditions that they live in. And so what we're doing, keeping us honest as researchers, teachers can do that, and also just providing some guidance as well, and just some thinking time is something that outside organizations can help out with. Leadership is very important as well. So the school that these students are in is an urban school, high concentration of Black and Latinx students, as was mentioned in the video. But what's important here as well is that there's a whole lot of teacher turnover at the school, right? In my perspective, other people may disagree. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Schools are different. The job of a teacher is just different and very, very complex and taxing, right? But outside organizations can help create an institutional memory that keeps that wisdom inside of the school, so that others, when they come into the school, can build and don't have to build things from scratch. The third area is resources. It could be funding, it could be time, but the balance of resources, both within the school district and outside of the district, creates opportunities for sustained engagement over the long run. And finally, networking is very important as well. So universities, funding organizations have different types of networks that can amplify the things that teachers are already doing or want to be a part of. And so taking things to the next level is very important. And it can be something as small as providing library access to students so they can actually conduct research without using the less than ideal search databases that their districts have access to, right? Or it could be something as large. In the case of these iScholar students, they were practicing at NC State one day. The Associate Dean of Engineering, she asked me, "Are these your students?" I said, "Yeah." She came over and talked to them, heard they were presenting at a national conference. She said, "Well, say less. I just got this award, and it came with a cash prize. I'm going to give them the money for that so they can all go to Disneyland because they're going to Anaheim anyway," right? So, there's a lot of things that, outside organizations can do when partnering, but just amplifying what teachers are doing is the name of the game.
I'm Kamal Bell. I'm a farmer, a teacher, also say dreamer.
To this point, I also want to mention this idea of professional support or development and what that actually means for teachers. Sometimes it doesn't mean telling teachers what to do. Sometimes it means just getting behind the great things that teachers are already doing. Like this teacher right here, Mr. Bell, we collaborate together, but he already has his own farm. And so he brings students to his farm. He has an initiative, so I just have to open the doors at NC State on Saturday, meet with the students every once in a while, but he has his own initiative going. But by doing that, we began to put our heads together and develop curricular activities that fit, my goals of supporting students' motivation and his goals connecting students to their ancestral heritage through agriculture. Another thought here is about research-based insights and how they're packaged. Lisa mentioned earlier that this idea of context really matters and makes a difference. And so if we take this idea very seriously and complexity very seriously, then we need to leverage the insights and the wisdom that the teachers are actually bringing to the table and marry those with what research says to come up with some context-based strategies that might actually work for that particular setting or the thing that you're trying to teach in that environment. And so that also requires researchers to kind of get out of the way a little bit and think about ways to share information that evens the playing field and levels out the power dynamics as much as possible. And another point here is about teachers getting credit. They have so many ideas, but sometimes we don't give them credit enough as researchers, co-presenting with them, et cetera. And they have a lot of business ideas. Last time I was here, people were very interested in scale. If we really want to scale some innovations that will work that are very authentic, then teachers' perspectives definitely matter, and they should be at the center of these conversations. And finally, following the influencer matters. So those hoodies that you saw in the video, these are hoodies that the students wanted to create, and they have a very positive message about voice. But at the end of the day, the last thing that I would have thought was hoodies, but when you walk around these middle schools, every student in the school has on a hoodie, and they don't want to take it off even if it's 100 degrees outside, right? but it has a message about voice that promotes a positive message on it. So when we think about the spread of information, just like on social media, influencers matter because they shop where you shop, they sleep where you sleep, they go to the same stores as you do, and they wear the same clothes as you. So that's why they're influencers, not because they're in a position of power, but because they're like you in some kind of way, right? So if we want to really spread positive messages and promote student voice, just think about outside of the box a little bit, and clothes and other platforms that students use to express their voice matter a lot. So, and this matters now because these students matter now. As the student panel just said, earlier today, students matter because they just do. So thank you.